Hey, Zach here, and we're talking Game of Thrones predictions this week. If you follow the show, we're not exactly spoiling anything, but if you'd rather not hear some of our speculations, maybe wait till after the series is over to listen to this, or at least the next episode. Hey, thanks. Bye. Hello, and welcome to Fan/Fiction with Andrew/Zach. I'm Zach Dunsing.
And I'm Andrew Gum. And on Easter, we recorded a very special Easter episode just for you.
Realized that we care way more about Game of Thrones, so then we re-recorded this episode right now.
Enjoy.
Sorry.
No problem.
Okay, so...
No problem.
Yeah, so it occurred to us at a certain point that there's 4 episodes of Game of Thrones left. We might as well do either a brief mini episode here or maybe just a segment, but we should talk about maybe our predictions or some popular theories or, some potential fan fictions about Grimm and GOT.
Yeah, man. It's literally the most popular fiction in the world right now. I mean, Avengers, people are losing their minds about too, but I would say no more so than about Game of Thrones, so let's get into it.
Well, what's crazy is that basically, Avengers Endgame comes out this week too, but I have zero interest in discussing what was potentially going to happen in that because I want to go in blind and cold.
Yeah, my students are all threatening to spoil it because spoilers came out on the internet, and I'm just this is the worst in humanity. Don't do this.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
Be better than this.
This guy who just started working with us was like, "Hey, are you like an Avengers nerd?" And I was like, what he said was, "Are you an Avengers nerd like me?" And my response, because I'm an asshole, was like, well, I have no idea. I like the Avengers, but I have no idea how much of an Avengers nerd you are.
Sure, yeah. That's reasonable.
Sure, yeah. I was like, I'm into it.
He was reaching out for a human connection, and you shut it down immediately.
Well, no, I didn't shut it down.
Reasonable.
I let him know specifically he wasn't going to get any here.
Gotcha.
You should look elsewhere, sir.
You just pulled up the signpost oh, sorry, no smiles available.
And then I followed up. I was like, I'm not going to talk to you about it because I don't want to talk about Endgame at all because you would be surprised at what information I can extrapolate from the smallest details about a movie. And then this teenager was in there was like, oh, you know what I think's going to happen? And I was like, clearly you didn't hear what I just said to this guy. And then
stop. Everyone stop talking to me.
What I think is going to happen. And I realized he was actually just with me, which was really funny. Because he went on he said all this nonsensical stuff that was he was being the funny one in that scenario.
Yeah. The students are now doing a bit that's oh, I saw this stuff about the end of Endgame where it's the Flash and Batman. They both die. It's so, and people are like, spoilers. It's funny.
That's a good bit.
They're doing bits, and I'm proud of them for that. I just don't like that they're messing with me because the whole thing about these kind of things, Game of Thrones, Avengers, all of this, it's the hype is the fun.
Yeah.
It's been built up so much. It's how it ends. I hope that it's narratively interesting, but really it's just this hype machine. And there's only a few things that come out a year that have this level of hype behind it. So it's just let it be a surprise, man.
Well, and not
unless
that you
you're
can
talking
only...
about Game of Thrones, which we're about to speculate wildly about.
Well, but you can only do that once. And the thing about Avengers Infinity War and many of those Avengers games is that there is so much speculation about them, but I think when the ones work, they manage to subvert expectations a little bit, but they also I still, as much as I don't know. It's kind of hard to say like which has been poured over more, Avengers or Game of Thrones, because we've had kind of the same amount of time to do it. 10 years basically, and this like as much like there's just as much sort of lore or previous property in both.
That's true. Yeah, and as I've seen, I haven't dug too much into the Avengers stuff, but when it comes to Game of Thrones, people pulling from books, pulling from like other like some of the other short fiction that he's written around the Game of Thrones properties, like people have done some very deep pulls when it comes to their theories about how things are going to go.
Well, and the same thing happened with Westworld, where like, I mean, basically as soon as like before each episode came out, like the Reddit community or, you know, online community that was aggregated on Reddit, like had essentially sourced it all, like had figured out everything that was going on. And that's like, I think that's a really interesting and unprecedented thing, but also it's like, why? Like, just like you're obviously fans of this. Like, just watch it and find out. Like, I mean, but I know why, because it's like what they're doing is just a step beyond what you and I are doing right now. Except that they aren't idiots, so they didn't take the time to try to record it into a podcast. They just like stuck it in the echo chamber, like just put it in the echo chamber oven of the internet until it came back with like the correct answer.
Right.
It just bounced around in there until it popped back out.
Yeah, that is an interesting thing. Like, there's those, like, when you crowdsource information, somehow our processing gets better. Like, people in crowds are able to guess the exact number of jelly beans in jars and stuff. I don't understand how it works, but
I don't think that what you're describing is a real thing, but
you should look it up. It's real. It's a real thing.
Crowdsourcing jelly bean guesses?
Yeah. I know.
No, I mean, that's what I should Google?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's more accurate. Like an individual, almost nobody is correct, but they like, it goes totally counterintuitive to what you think. You get a bunch of people yelling about how many jelly beans are in a jar, and that is what yields the right answer. Doesn't seem like that's possibly true.
I mean,
that's...
Until I see otherwise, I'm just going to assume you're making all of that up.
Might be. You'll have to look it up. Or I will, because now I'm afraid that I'm wrong about this.
Sure. Well, we'll put our fact checkers on it, but go on.
Yeah. Thanks, Brian, if you'll jump on that. Thanks, Brian.
Thanks, B.
So my favorite last season Game of Thrones speculation that I was all hyped about that I don't think is going to be the real one, just because they're going in such a weird direction with Bran right now, is... Bran is the Night King.
Bran is the Night King.
Did you hear that one?
Yeah. And there's tons
really like that
there's
one.
tons of shit online that's like compare their images together, because now Bran has like kind of a long face. He's like much gaunter than he was as a child, obviously. So it's like can't you see how he totally is the Night King?
Yeah.
But totally. I mean, so he's influenced the past before. I think it would be less. It seems less likely that he would be the literal Night King as it does that he would have influenced something which created the Night King. And I think what's interesting about that is that we don't really know what Bran is doing right now. I mean, it looks like we do. Like we on the surface level, we see that he's like helping to
luring him out, but that's just what he's saying.
Well,
he's
it's also
his own game for sure.
Yeah, he's playing his own game, and it looks as if he's saying that he's trying to like help facilitate like the forces against the Night King, and I'm just saying it'd be pretty lame if we actually just took him at his word for that, and that were the literal case, because he's like so checked out at this point. Like in this most recent episode, spoiler, that whole part where he's explaining to Jaime why he didn't tell anybody that Jaime pushed him out of the tower, that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like it's like, okay, so he's on board with Jaime joining their side because it'll help facilitate in the war. That's one thing. That's fine. But if you're like omnipotent, like why would you give a shit about not hurting Jamie's feelings? You know, like explaining.
Yeah, it just doesn't matter. It's like, and also it's like this one guy. It's like it doesn't matter. Like even
totally.
One way or the other, it doesn't matter. It's like he'll die or he'll fight. Like the chances of that really tipping the scales one way or the other is very slim. Well, so it's like he's probably doing his own thing. You know, that's just it would be good writing if he's doing his own thing.
Yeah, and but what I'm afraid is that he is doing something, but it's not as interesting as it seems. And I think that maybe all of that stuff, like that conversation with Jamie, all that bullshit between him and Arya and Sansa and Littlefinger in the last season, like all of that was for the audience's benefit, and like basically was completely uninteresting for plot purposes.
Sure, it's just intrigue,
and it wasn't even interesting for those characters, I think. So who knows? I will say that I will be pretty disappointed if Bran doesn't warg into a dragon at some point.
Yeah,
and just take control of them.
And the thing that like I still hold on a tiny bit of hope for the Bran is the Night King thing is they made such a big deal, like one of the most iconic moments of the last season, like the Hodor hold the door thing. Is he went back in time and changed the events of the past by like.
Well, yeah, so that's got to come and play again. But there are
so if he doesn't do that again, then it's like a who gives a shit thing.
Yeah, so I have three questions about that, right? So one, or three things about that. One is that, so that does sort of set up the premise that now Bran can see Jon Snow's birthright. So that's one reason why that would kind of be in there. Or just that we know that Bran can see the past, but you wouldn't have to see the past to also be able to influence it. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
Another theory out there is that, you know, Bran, his influence on the past, which is one that I think makes sense. His influence on the past, like, is what drove the Mad King mad in the first place.
I like that, and I would love if that's a part of the bigger game too.
But think about it this way: like, what if they totally lose, and everybody gets taken over by the White Walkers and the Night King, and then the only option Bran has is to try to warn the past. He warns the Mad King, who interprets that warning literally and tries to set everyone in King's Landing on fire, and that's why he was crazy.
Saying, burn them all. Yeah. Burn them all, yeah.
My other question about that is like, what do you think is going to happen when they see Hodor again?
Oh. Because they don't have that. That is, like, Hodor's dead body has got to kill, like, a main character.
Oh, I mean, the 100% the White Walkers got Hodor. 100% he's huge, and 100% he's going to run in with that donkey of his and
just club
somebody to death.
No, Sansa deserves a more noble death, but like
I think she's going to live.
Like Dolorous Ed or one of those guys. Yeah,
sure.
He's getting donkey to death.
Well, then
dead donkey to death.
DDD.
Yeah. But yeah, so I really like the idea of that there's more at play with what Bran is doing than meets the eye. Whether or not he's the Night King, I would love for that to be a twist at the end of this episode, which then helps push more of the episodes forward. Because he's like, yeah, we got to lure out the Night King and take care of him, like take him out. Or I'm playing my own game here, and that's gonna like set us up for the end game. I do like that.
I would like that there's something more going on with that, because he started as a very interesting character, but a lot of the characters have really like plateaued over the past few seasons. Mm-hmm. I think Jaime is still interesting, although basically useless in the fight to come.
In this context,
I also, well, that's not important, but I mean, whatever Jon Snow chooses to do in the future, like, there's no way Daenerys is going to be happy with it.
No. Yeah. So I've got ideas about what I think would be cool.
Sure.
There too, but before we get like too deep into like the big crazy overarching theories,
sure.
Go down,
yeah.
Can we just talk about how insane it is that they're putting everyone into the crypt when they're fighting enemies whose whole deal is like bringing things back from the dead? Like, what are they doing? Why is no one talking about the fact that they're jamming all the women and children down, surrounded by potential, like, former Stark, like, White Walker killer ghost skeletons?
I had not thought about that before, and you're right, that is crazy. Just crazy.
That's just so stupid.
Do you think Sean Bean is making an appearance in the next episode? Do you think Eddard Stark is going to come back from the dead as a skeleton?
Amazing. With like no head, like just headless Ned Stark. Yeah, that would be awesome. But
completely headless
Joffrey
Ned.
put his head up on a spike, and I don't think they even have his body up there.
Somebody returned his bones.
Somebody did?
Littlefinger returned his bones as a gesture. He did, as a matter of fact, actually.
That is awesome. Oh, that would be awesome. And like Lyanna Stark coming back and like all of them. Like,
but there's nothing holding those bones together anymore.
Maybe
I don't know how skeleton undead work. I know how zombie undead work. I don't know how skeleton undead work.
Yeah, so, I mean, some of them are like pretty gnarly, like they're pretty skeleton-like, but I don't know. That just seems like an insane move. Maybe they aren't gonna all come back from the dead in that crypt, but that seems crazy because that's the whole deal with the White Walkers.
It would have been so. That's the type of thing that, like, I don't know. Maybe something's gonna happen with that. I actually doubt anything's gonna happen in the crypt of importance other than Sam and possibly the little girl are going to do something incredibly brave and heroic. But
yeah, that'd be cool.
But no, it would be way cooler if they just actually sealed the crypt off for that reason, and the women and children had nowhere safe to hide, and they just armed them.
Yeah. That makes more sense anyway.
Makes more sense anyways, and it would be. And there was like one scene in the last episode where that I wish had gone on for like 8 more minutes, where they're basically placing all the pieces on the map and figuring out their strategy of like where Bran's going to be to draw on the Night King, and they talk about like where the dragons are going to be, and there's like a brief moment where they're just talking about them as if they're artillery or something. And that whole scene should have been way more interesting because you have all this like bat crazy magic happening around you, but then they still have to sort of walk through it as a like safe strategy of how to use dragons and giants and
Yeah.
We haven't seen
what are you gonna do
Ghost in forever.
And like if you're gonna be using the dragons, but you don't want to risk losing any more of the dragons. What do you do? Like, they've got those spear things. Like, it's like, that's kind of a fun tactical.
Well, it just would have been really interesting to listen to them, like, talk about dragons as if they were, like, f***ing Abrams tanks or whatever,
could do some serious damage, like, just sweeping across, like, the lines, which is, I mean, they could probably clean up the whole thing themselves if they didn't also have, like, really, really impressive javelin skills,
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. They're all skin and bones, those dead.
Yeah.
And ice.
But yeah, so that's one for the upcoming episode. Let me just ask you some things. Yeah. And then we can kind of structure it around it.
Okay.
So this is a theory, but I just want you to know, what do you think is going to happen with Cersei? Because one of the things that I've heard, I want to hear what you think, but is that the Night King is not going to even be in this battle. People are talking about that because he's not going to bring one dragon against two dragons. That's stupid. But that he could fly south and just wreck it in the south and basically cut off any of their potential retreat with like a dragon, because they've got like no dragon. They're like totally unprepared in the south, and he can travel huge distances really easy now. So I mean, that up here
would make more sense if he just fucked up King's Landing, raised a 1 million person army.
Yeah.
And then march north on everyone. Yeah. And had them surrounded.
Very cool.
That to me is more interesting than. I forget the director's name, but they have a go-to director for all their big set pieces, right? He's the guy who directed the Hard Home episode and the Battle of the Bastards.
It's not David Weiss or David Benioff? It's a different dude?
Those are writers. Those are writers, not directors.
They're not, aren't they? Okay, well, yeah, I'm sure you're right.
Yeah. He's also this guy I'm talking about is also the same. He developed that show Altered Carbon and directed the first episode. That show's not great, but anyways.
I liked it.
It's not good, but he. So he like directs all the like really big episodes. So he's directing the next episode and the second to last episode.
Ooh.
He's also just a really good director of those like big kind of action set pieces.
Who did the Battle of the Bastards?
The guy I'm talking about.
That same one?
I just said that.
You said those words?
Yes.
Okay. Because that battle is like one of the best medieval battle sequences I've ever seen.
Yeah, so he directed it, and he's doing the next episode and the second to last episode.
I'm very excited. This upcoming battle sequence is the longest sequential battle sequence ever filmed.
Interesting.
So,
well, that also just means that, like, so we know that there's going to be a huge conflict next. One episode of sort of, reconstruction, and then an episode that's a huge conflict. And then
battle.
An episode of
conclusion.
Conclusion. And that means that, like, okay, so either they're going to fight the White Walkers and mostly defend themselves, and then they're going to have a battle with Cersei, or what you said is going to happen, where they're going to fight the White Walkers, and then, the White Walkers are also going to take out King's Landing, and then they're going to come to an even more climactic battle.
I think that would be so awesome.
Much more
if it was
interesting.
like, if they win, like this upcoming battle, they lose like half of their people, but they start targeting like the White Walker captain guys. So they take out one, and then like a bunch of the White Walkers fall, and they take out another, and a bunch of them fall, and they really turn the tide, and they start to retreat, and they like take them out in Arya, and like everyone's like going and like killing everybody, and like they win, and they're like, we did it. Holy shit, we did it. We won. And then they find out that
an army 10 times as big as that army is marching
now
north.
Coming.
Yeah.
And like it's going to take like the whole world. Like they're going to need to pull people from like Dorne and everywhere. Or I don't know. Like I don't know. I have no idea what you would do in that situation. But like, well, it's not time. But I have a dream about how the whole thing ends.
Okay.
But
I mean,
are there any other big theories that you would want to mention that you've heard about that you think are interesting, or a way that you would want it to go?
Oh, I hope that I hope that sometime before, either during the big battle or before the big battle, Arya loses her virginity. Oh wait, I don't give a shit about that.
Yeah, I that whole bit, I was just like,
I mean, good on her or whatever. It made me uncomfortable.
It's just like, but that's never been like on the radar for her at all. It's like there's never
that's
even
the
been
weird
like
thing. It's like I get it that like, okay, so like, yeah, all the other characters get laid. Why not her? Great, that's fine.
Sure,
but it's like
she's an adult now. You want this kind of a scene? Sure, that's
whatever.
Fine.
Why not? But like, it hasn't ever been on her radar, and it also like this is also what kind of bugs me about. I thought it was cool that Brienne of Tarth like was knighted, but I thought it was weird that it was Jaime who did it, who's like her crush, you know? Like she's so much more of a character than that, and it's just like,
yeah,
I don't know who else should have done it. Like, I don't know who else would have been appropriate to like have that scene with, but it was just kind of like, it's just like, it sort of neuters them in a way that I'm not like into.
Well, I think that kind of
they're
stuff
such strong
is
characters.
like Brienne's gonna die now, or Brienne's gonna die now, because she got the thing. Her character went full circle. She got fully legitimized by everybody. She met kept all of her oaths, like rose to the point of honor that she wanted to go to. So now she's gonna die. That's like her goodbye. It's like everyone that had like their moment in the sun, they're all like, just now it's okay for them to get killed next episode, you know?
Yeah.
So my guess is
but what that means is that all of that is just like, that's like fan service.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, it's like, it's not
giving them a good goodbye.
That's been my biggest problem with this, or with the past season and some of the stuff in this season, is that like a lot of it is not. It's not character driven like what they would do. It's character driven like what we want to see them have. Like what we want them to get their day in the sun before it goes down. And that's like,
right.
I mean, yeah, that's how you write. It's fun, but it's like, it's less interesting than like how those characters developed and when we got to know them, like what was motivating them.
Right.
But
so
anyways,
do you have any death guesses for this next episode?
The only person who I'm 100%, the only person who I think stands the greatest chance of surviving is Sir Davos.
Of surviving?
Yeah. Because
I've got him on my death list.
Well, I thought so at first too. I was like, this guy has like been on borrowed time since he started hanging out with kings, but that's his only thing. He's not a fighter. He's a survivor. Like, he's the only person who like, because he's also the only person out of every character who is going to have zero problems with fleeing if it looks like that's the thing you're supposed to do.
Yeah. Yeah, he's going to smuggle his ass out of there.
Totally. I mean, I think like, you know, he might, so much so that he might be the only person left to tell the story, you know?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's interesting, because I've got him on the death list. I've got Brienne.
But that's just because he seems expendable, and he is, right, plot-wise, but character-wise, he's a survivor.
Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah,
I hear you. I think Dolores Ed is going down. I think Beric Dondarrion is going down. I really don't want my boy Tormund to go down, but I think Tormund Giantsbane is going down.
You want to hear one of my theories about Tormund?
Please.
I think that Tormund and all of the other redheads are immune to the White Walkers.
Because they're kissed by fire.
Because they're kissed by fire. And because there's a really long, like drawn out sequence of him being dragged into the water in the Beyond the Wall episode, where he like, you're like, oh, this is his death, and it's like a fake out. Like, no, it's not his death, but maybe also it's because he's a redhead.
I like that. They're like, ouch, ouch. He's
yeah, right, yeah. And they just like, they hate gingers in the show, so it just makes sense.
Because they're immune and everyone's jealous.
Totally.
That's good. That's good. I think our primaries will probably make it through the end. Like all of our Starks and Daenerys will make it. But I hope that a lot of them don't. Through the big final.
I think if we're talking Starks who are going to survive, I think Sansa will live. I think Arya's going to die. I think.
Yes.
I think
hope
Theon
she does really well, but she should. Oh, Theon's toast in the next episode.
100% dead.
Yeah.
And I think
that's what he wants.
It's what he wants anyways. I mean, Jaime's dead. He always wanted for a long time now is an honorable death.
I don't think he's going in this one though. I think he's his last moment with.
He's going to have to confront Cersei again. Totally.
Yeah.
I think that Jon Snow is going to die, probably either doing something for Dany or because of some decision she made, and then They're going to try to burn his body so he doesn't turn into a White Walker. They're going to realize it doesn't burn because he's a Targaryen, and Dany is going to freak the fuck out about it because she's going to realize not only is he a Targaryen and his nephew, but the only love of her life.
Oh, that would be so dope. That would be so dope. Oh, yes.
Wait, did my Game of Thrones prediction just force you into song?
Yeah, that's a good one. Oh, and what would be great is if then Dany's pregnant with his kid too, because you got that whole prophecy.
Well, and
like,
also
when will you come back is like when all this stuff happens, and then like when your womb quickens again.
Well, and also
like, it wasn't Drogo, but it was like her love. Like
they only ever raw dog, so.
Yeah. Oh, they did. Well, because she was like, yeah, it's like nothing works.
You can bust in there. It's fine. I gave birth to a demon. Oh, so you think that Jon Snow's child will be the rider who mounts the world, or what was it called? What was it called?
Azor Ahai or whatever.
Right. Well, but it was that's like in a different culture, isn't it? Like, didn't the Dothraki call it the rider who mounts the world?
Right. Yeah, it's the same thing though.
Gotcha.
And so it's like those two together, making it. Though, if I may, I have a dream about how the whole thing. I would like it to go down because from season 1, this would be totally unsatisfying to everyone.
Yeah.
Except maybe me and probably you. Since the beginning. The whole thing has been about like people are looking for power, and because of this like lust for who's in power, who's in control, everyone is paying the price. Like these wars keep going on, everybody's dying, like all this shit is going down because people can't stop playing the Game of Thrones. And you got characters like Jon Snow that are the whole time they're being like, guys, chill. It doesn't matter. Like there's a huge wall of like death zombies marching down to kill us all. But even
he's like he's honor bound in a way that makes him basically like contractually obligated to participate in the Game of Thrones in some capacity.
Right.
And obviously like for all of Daenerys' merits, like she is 100% a conqueror and a player in the great game.
Totally. And wants and likes and is into it. She wants to be queen. Hundo. It's not She's like, it's for the realm. It's not. She wants to be powerful. It's like she's like Cersei. She's just done nicer stuff than Cersei.
Sure. Or she's done it for better reasons.
Yeah, and would be a better ruler, sure. But it's still that desire for power that is fueling it. Like, I'm going to be the one in charge is... and what I would like, the final thing to be is whatever happens in this next battle, the ball gets fumbled at the last minute. Either Dany kills Jon, and so the North turns on them. They find out the North turns on them. There's infighting, or like he is trying to make a peace treaty, and they screw it up because Dany can't let go of power, or because Cersei like does some like last minute treachery or something, and they fumble the ball, and everyone dies. And it's like this fight is going on, and you got characters like Jon that are like, stop, this doesn't, you're missing it, you're missing the point. And everyone in the realm dies because they couldn't stop playing the Game of Thrones long enough to see that it's this lust for power that's the real problem. And so then, in the final thing is, like Dany as a white, or the Night King or somebody goes and sits on the Iron Throne as a white, and it freezes and like shatters behind them, and you just look up over Westeros and it's all just snow. And that's it.
Well, that's not gonna happen, but
I know, but it's like, but that's been the point of the show the whole time.
Well, I think that could happen, because that is the whole idea of like George R. R. Martin and his whole idea for Game of Thrones is like, if you take the Lord of the Rings and you have Aragorn coming in and he becomes the king of the White City and he unites the realms of men, and the elves go off into the forest, and it's a new age for men. You still have to figure out how to get grain across the country to feed the peasants.
Right.
You still that's the premise of Game of Thrones, which is that you have all of this fantastic, all these fantastic elements, but it's grounded in this practical reality of but
you didn't store up enough food for the winter.
You didn't store up enough food for the winter, so
everyone's going to starve.
Yeah. And that makes sense because how are you supposed to defeat an army of the dead? For every kill they get, their army increases.
Right.
And it also would make sense to me in a sort of in the way that you're saying, which would be that is the only one true way that peace will be restored to Westeros, is if everyone is dead or, the Night King takes over.
Oh, shit. I love your theory of Dany kills Jon, because that's part of the Azor Ahai thing. Is the
How
prince,
so?
he plunged his flaming sword into the heart of his wife, and then
no, that's just when they were raw dogging.
But
I talked about that already this evening.
Yeah. But that's good too. That would be consistent with the prophecy if it is supposed to be Dany at the end that takes the cake or whatever.
Well, there's maybe a version of that too where Dany does get the Iron Throne, but there's nothing left. If King's Landing, if the Night King takes his dragon to King's Landing in the next episode, wipes out their defenses, wipes out Euron Greyjoy's and the Golden Company, and then marches White Walkers in there, they can take King's Landing. They'll have 1 million new
people.
I'm not going to say souls or people, but bodies to fight in their army. And then basically Daenerys could still defeat all of them by just, dragon shit and have nothing left. All of her friends will have died at Winterfell. Everyone she's ever loved will have died at Winterfell. She will have the Iron Throne and just nothing to rule over.
Yeah, I'd be satisfied with
except
that
for
too.
Do you think the other Greyjoys, the other what are they called?
Ironborn?
Yeah, the other Ironborn will come back into it.
Well, they should. They went back to the Iron Islands, and they had that line about they need somewhere to fall back to.
Yeah.
So that might be not next episode, but the following episode.
That could be the fallout from next episode. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, so it's there's a bunch of more White Walkers coming. They can't cross water, so come on, everybody, get on the boats. Whoever's left, we're going to the Iron Islands. And then they got to kind of figure out. But I don't know.
But
that's the thing. We got enough elements in here that I really don't know.
They can't swim. They can cross ice. And the Night King can freeze anything. So
that's true.
He's just got an army of Sub-Zeros that he's going to walk across the narrow sea.
That's true. And if Arya's little bow staff, whatever, has a little chain shoot-outy, which is what the design made it look like, she's kind of like Scorpion. So we just got to figure out who's Reptile, and we got a whole Mortal Kombat situation.
Anybody with grayscale is Reptile.
Yeah, so Jorah Mormont. Reptile.
And that little girl who was burned to death.
Ooh,
too soon. All right, well, I think we got everything we need.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Good night, Andrew.
Good night, Zach. We could even, for the intro to this, be like, hey, we recorded an Easter episode, but then realized we care more about Game of Thrones than Easter. So the Easter episode will be coming out very late. Enjoy this Game of Thrones episode.
You're saying we should record an intro that says that?
I mean, we could if we wanted to release the Easter episode a little bit later, so that would give us more time.
Well, why don't we just use the thing
we need to release
said?
this before we need to release this before Sunday. Otherwise, all of these musings are nowhere near as interesting. You know?
Yeah, no. I was making a joke because we could just use the exact thing that you just said as the intro. I was going to use that clip.
Yeah, I see.